Hello guys, in this tutorial I will build a composer installable Zend Framework 2 module. Unfortunately the modules cannot exist without application, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by cloning Zend Framework 2 skeleton application, and after that I'm gonna create one module which I want to be installable, as I said, through composer. Let me find now the getting started example. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm in my home directory, pwd. This is C documents and setting user. Let's start by cloning our skeleton application, which we will use as environment for our module. Otherwise we will not know if it works. Okay, so git clone https Zend Framework Zend skeleton application .com. Okay, this is the result. Now if you look at the application, you will see that in vendor folder there is no library. So we can go two different ways. We can clone actually Zend Framework 2 library into the folder Zend Framework 2. Look at this folder, this file, git modules. It shows us where actually this is a submodule. It shows us where the repository for Zend is. I'm not gonna use this approach. And the second one is to use our composer. Now let's install Zend Framework using the composer. I'm gonna change the directory to Zend skeleton application. I'm gonna say composer, of course PHP composer par. Okay, we have the latest version of composer. Now let's say install. And voila, we will get here in vendor a new folder which is called Zend Framework. After having the environment set up, we will actually install other projects which I'm interested in. For example, Doctrine ORM, because I want to work with a virtual database. I don't want to work with the concrete implementation of the database. I want to create a CSN user, which is simple authentication module based on Doctrine. In order to do that, of course, I have to have Doctrine installed on my machine. So how I'm gonna do that? Very simple. We just have to find the Doctrine. Where it is? The user. Here we go. Doctrine module, ORM module for Zend. Again, something weird happens. It's slow. Okay. Go to our composer, and I'm just gonna copy and paste. Not gonna leave a margin for errors. Paste PHP composer par require doctrine ORM module. This is the name of the module which I need. Okay, so 0. Star, and we'll see that we'll have a new module installed in vendor. Not a module, of course, it's the entire project. We'll see Symfony, we'll see Doctrine. Here we go. Waiting. Okay, Doctrine has been installed, as you can see. So let's look at our vendor folder. We have two new folders there, Doctrine and Symfony. So I'm happy with that. Composer installed everything necessary. Now let me look at again in vendor in gitignore. What I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna add Doctrine and Symfony to my gitignore, because I don't want these projects to get pushed to my repository. I don't need them. And also Zend Framework 2, of course. I just want to take care of those. Git modules, let me check again. Let's see now. Bin also I don't want in my repo. Bin, composer, doctrine, symphony, Zend Framework, and ZF2, okay? That's the first thing to do. Now, of course, I have to configure my doctrine. But even before I do that, let me make sure that everything works. So let's create a virtual host and let's point it to the public folder of this project. I have done it already, but I'm gonna show you what I did. I'm using a Zend server, so my Apache actually it's in project not the project but in program files, of course, in Zend, Apache, and in config in the central configuration file of my Apache, which is HTTPD. Let's go down and let's see the virtual host. So I prefer to create virtual hosts by listening on different ports. As you can see, for this project I'm listening on port 10125, not me of course, Apache. See documents and settings, user skeleton application, public. Okay, so let's see if that works now. As you can see, here it is, the port. Let's refresh and see if that works. Refreshing. Yeah, here we go. Everything works. Let's continue with our installation now. I'm gonna close this folder so it's not get messy here around. Let's go back to our configuration file and follow the instructions for installing Doctrine on this project. We have to add 2 modules following the Doctrine installation requirements. One is Doctrine module and the second one is Doctrine ORM module. After that I'm gonna refresh just to make sure that everything works, and of course I'm not gonna do this because I don't have module yet, but I will set up the connection to the database just for any case, just to have it. I'm gonna call this file Doctrine ORM module local. I don't want this file to get pushed to the repository. Doctrine ORM module local.php. It contains sensitive information, so that's why I don't want to push it there to the repository. Username, root, of course, for each scheme you have to have a different username and password, so please don't do that, but I'm on my local development stack, so I don't care. That's why I'm putting root here, database name FMI, very well known, and that's it. I finished with the configuration of Doctrine. Okay, now let me check and make sure that everything works. Here we go, it works, but under the hood actually the modules have been included and they work. They are ready to be used. Now let's start with our module. To create module in Zend Framework 2, you have to create a folder in vendor or module. So CSN user. Inside of this folder you have to have a file which is called module.php, and inside you have to have a namespace and define one class which is called module. PHP namespace CSN user class module. And now we can inform the application that we just created a module. that's enough to have a module. Here we go, everything works, but under the hood, as I said, actually this class module gets instantiated in the namespace CSN user, and many other things are happening. Okay, now what next? I will give you a trick now. We want our module to be installable through Composer, but also we want to allow our users just to clone the module and put it in the folder module or vendor. In order to do that, to satisfy the Composer and Zend at the same time, we have to do something like this. Source, following the PSR0 requirements, we create inside a folder CSN user, and actually we move our module file here. Move this file here, and I'm gonna put just a statement require on the ordinary place of module file in the module. So it's gonna be loadable by module manager. Module.php, and notice what I'm gonna do now. Yes, reload it. PHP. I'm gonna copy this from my other project. Module, CSN user, module. Don't wanna make mistakes again. So here we go. Module has been created, and notice this. Now when the module manager loads this file, in fact it loads another file which is inside of our source folder CSN user module PHP, and in fact this file contains the definition of our module. src, of course, source, following the PSR0 recommendations. Here we go. And now our module should be working. Yes, it works. Okay, let's add the configuration, which should be in config folder here. Config, and we have to create module config. Module config PHP. Module config. It should return one array. It could be empty. PHP return array, and that's it. Now in our module file, of course, we have to add the ordinary things, the usual things. Let me show you that. Source CSN module, and those are where is our configuration file and prepared autoloader. Module. Let me see if I did this. No, of course. Will be easier to do it this way. Okay, I'm gonna close this. So here we go. Now we have a module configuration file, we have a module, and we have a second module which is directly in our module folder. Explain it to you that we have to move the module inside of the source CSN user folder in order to be auto-loaded by Composer. Okay, let's finish with the Composer, because the objective of this tutorial is just to show you how to make this module installable, not to complete the module entirely. Let me change a little bit the module config just to show that we have something here. Okay, so this is my module config. Close. Now when I refresh, I just will get one expression which says I'm in CSN user, one line, I'm in CSN user, and that's it. That's a proof that the module has been loaded. Okay, let's start now creating something from this module, which could be installable. First, I want to attract your attention on the fact that the module could be in vendor or module. So now, just to prove this, I'm gonna move it to vendor folder, paste it here, and show you that everything works. Here we go. Everything works. No, I don't want to keep these files here. This is skeleton applications, is module. I'm gonna close this as well. Application config. I don't need this. I don't need this either. Okay, now we have moved it to vendor and our module still works. Now we want our module to have its own repository, and all we did here with the skeleton application is just to prepare the environment so we can develop our module. How we are gonna do that? Now notice something. We already have one Git repository in our super project, if you want to call it this way, and we will have sub project here in vendor. Let me do the following. Now I'm gonna inform Git that actually the folder CSN user here is a submodule. How we are gonna do that? I'm gonna show you the source of information, which I have used, Git SCM, Source Control Management System. Here it is. But before even do that, I have to create my own repository which will hold our project. Let me go to my repository, and here in the cool CSN I'm gonna create one new repository, CSN user, and this repository will hold only this module. Create new repo. I'm gonna call this CSN user. Notice I'm using Pascal camel case, and I'm gonna say authentication module using doctrine. Okay, public, private, initialize. I don't need to check anything of those. Create repository. The repository will be created. Here we go. The repository has been created. Now let me show you something. If I try to create a submodule, probably I will get error because it's not a repository. This folder is not a repository at all. Okay, let's do that. Let's try git submodule add, and I'm gonna add the URL to my repository, which is here. Oops, where is my repository? I just created one. Come on, here we go. Okay, and I'm gonna use HTTPS instead of security shell, because on this computer right now I don't have RSA key pairs generated. So submodule add, and I'm gonna say this is HTTPS github.com cool CSN user.git. Let me show you something. This is the file .git modules in my application folder in the super project, if you want to call it this way. Okay, here we go. This is the file, and you will see how this command will change the content of this file. Git will know now that we have a oops. Of course, I have to change the directory. Go to Zend skeleton application before I try to do that. Git status. Oops. Status. Here we go. Those are all the files which have been changed. Composer par has been changed because I did self-update. Composer.json has been changed because I installed Doctrine. Config application, I added the modules. Git ignore, vendor CSN user. See, now I don't want vendor CSN user to be displayed here because I don't want to be controlled by the repo, by the content management system of the super project, if you want to call it this way, of our skeleton application. So that's why I'm doing this. Git submodule add https github.com cool CSN user.git, and I'm gonna say which is the folder. Of course we'll get error in this case, but let me try that. Vendor CSN user. Look, now it's gonna say that this is not a repository, I guess. Vendor CSN user. Let me try that. Vendor already exists and is not a valid Git repo. See? Okay. Let me see if some changes have happened. Nothing. Okay, so let's follow now the instructions given to us by GitHub, and let's create a repo in this folder. Change directory vendor, change directory CSN user, and here I'm gonna say git init. In order to add the submodule, this submodule actually should be already one repo. Git init. Okay, so it has been initialized. Git status. Okay, all these files have been created but haven't been added, haven't been staged. So I will continue now. Let me go back again and try now to add this sub project. Here we go. Now, as you can see, it works. Okay, let me check again the file. Here we go. GitHub.com cool CSN user, and now Git knows that our vendor CSN user is a folder which actually it's a submodule. Let me go again to Zend skeleton. Oops, I have been there. Zend skeleton application, and let's ask git status. Notice something now. Git modules, vendor CSN module PHP, config module. But let me go to vendor. CSN user. Git status. Here we have a different status here, as you can see. Now what we are gonna do is just follow the instructions just to push everything what is in this folder to our Git repository. But before we push, actually, we have to add something to our newly created module, vendor CSN user. So let's add now the README file and the composer.json. Composer.json is absolutely mandatory in order to create a module installable through Composer. All you have to do is just add a name. This is absolutely necessary. Cool CSN user. Authentication based on Doctrine ORM module. And also we will put requirements. Doctrine ORM module. Maybe we should put Zend as well. But let's leave it like that for now. I just want to have one installable module. Let's get as quick as possible. Okay. Let's look at the README file. Okay. I explain what is the CSN user and I'm giving the installation instructions. That's all. So I have everything what's necessary now to do git add, git commit, and git push. Git add, git status. Now git remote. You will notice that there is no remote, I believe. No, so we have to add a remote repository. Okay, so git remote -v. Okay, now let's check the status. Git commit -m first commit. Okay, git status again, and now let's push to this repository. Git push -u origin master. Now it's gonna ask me for username and credentials. And voila! Branch master set up to track remote branch master from origin. Let's refresh and we will get our newly created repository, which actually contains our project, our new module, which is a part of a big application. Okay, so that was it actually. Once you have it set up this way on your GitHub repository, this module is actually installable by Composer. And we have two choices right now. We made it in the way so we can install the module by cloning this repository or using the Composer, which is very convenient. Let me show you first the installation with Composer, and after that I'm going to show you how I'm going to use this module by cloning. Now the next step is just to prove that this module has been installed. I'm going to rename this one. Just make sure that it's not working anymore, and after that I'm going to install it using the Composer. Let me actually change the folder. Okay, git status. As you can see here, I still have some of the files which are not staged. Okay, so Composer CSN user, I will say 1. Now my application will stop working because there is no such module. Internal server error. Let me show you all the errors. On this server I don't show all the errors, so let me do that. You can do it this way or other way. Okay, I'm gonna show you one approach. So public index, let me copy this code. What I'm doing here is I'm setting up the variables which is supposed to be in the PHP ini. Ini set display errors 1, and I'm setting the default day, the time zone. Okay, here we go. Uncode exception, Zend module manager exception, runtime exception with message module, blah blah. Okay, so the module doesn't exist anymore, but now we can install it. Let's follow our own instructions here. It says repositories, and we have to tell the Composer where to find the project. And let's go to composer.json and add now after home page to add our repository, the address of our repository. And let's require right now from from Composer to install our project, which is called, as you can guess, which is called cool CSN user. Development master. Let's see now what's gonna happen. documents and settings, using Zend skeleton application. Let's use PHP composer par update, just to force our composer to read the JSON composer.json file instead of using and reading only the log file. Okay, so let's see now if the magic will happen. This is where the magic starts. Let's look at in our vendor folder to see immediately when our module gets installed. It just happens that I'm installing the module in the application which I have used actually to create it, but otherwise our users will not have such folder like CSN user 1. It's gonna be empty for them. Not empty, but at least they won't have this folder. I just rename it. Okay, here we go, installing cool CSN, CSN user, dev master. Okay, cool CSN. Let's see now if the application works. Here we go, here we go. And our well-known expression, I am in CSN user. Let's look at in vendor, what happened in vendor. Now the composer actually has changed the name here to CSN-USR, low cases with dash, but the autoloader has been changed, this file, and that's why the application knows how to find our module. And that's it. Actually, we have our module installable through Composer. Now, the next thing we can do is I'm gonna show you now how I'm gonna install, or clone rather, our module directly, for example, in our folder modules, and you'll see how it works. Now let me prove that the application doesn't work. So let's use now git again to install our module, but this time in another folder, in the module folder, using the cloning. Okay, so let's change directory to module, pwd. Yes, we are in module, so we'll say clone, git clone of course, and we'll give the URL. Here we go. Just copy and paste this in a different folder, in a different file, so I can see it, better see it. Not here, of course. Clone https github.com cool CSN user .git. That's why I actually name it my repository CSN user, because look now, in the modules I will have a folder called CSN user. If it was only small cases with dashes, it's not gonna work with Zend. This is my application, so now it works, but this time gets loaded from our module folder. And this is what happens actually. CSN, if you call it differently, CSN user, it's not gonna work now. Come on. Now if I refresh, now the module cannot be found. So that's why I name it this way. By the way, if you like right now to make this application installable through Packagist without mentioning always the URL of GitHub, Then we have to go to the packages and log in. After login, actually you can get to this page where you can submit package. Okay, here it is, my repository URL. I'm gonna copy this as Vim Git. I'm just wondering, do I have to put SSH or HTTPS? Please make sure. Okay, so I'm gonna paste the URL of my repository. Check. The package name found for your repository is cool.csn user. Press submit to confirm. As you can see, now I can confirm this repository. Let me save this. 23. Submit. Okay, so we're waiting for submitting. Search packages, delete, force update, edit. This package is not auto-updated. This package is not auto-updated. Go and set up GitHub service hook for packages so that it gets updated whenever you push. Okay, so we're gonna do that. GitHub service hook. Development master, cool.csn. Okay, 24. Okay, so we will go to GitHub and okay, now what we have to do is now allow the service hooks for packages in our Git repository. So let's hit settings, service hooks, packages, where are you? Here we go. User token. I'm gonna add the token, I'm gonna add the domain, active, and update settings. After entering my username and my token, which I took from packages after setting up an account and activating, clicking on the checkbox activate, I hit the button update, and as you can see now the packages works. So if I commit something, the commits will immediately be available through packages and composer. So that's it, folks. Now I show it to you how to create a installable by composer module. I hope you enjoy it and will be helpful to someone. Thank you for watching this and see you soon.